plant didn't just explode, it imploded from the inside. A Nebo M mothership threads past a missile that overshoots. Spetsnaz drop a motorized tripwire web, and yet the lead TFL-1 pivots to visual homing on a nitro-cellulose intake vent. Then, a 0.8-second delay traps the shockwave inside the duct. If you've wondered how AI, stealth profiles, and a precisely timed charge can outplay layered defenses, watch the full sequence. From the log cabin container launch to the interior strike that analysts say disrupted explosive output for the Donbass front and shocked regional command networks. Before we move on, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel and like the video. Why would a lone log cabin sit by a rail spur under watch, miles from a village and nowhere near a hunting lease or storage yard? Because it wasn't a cabin. It was a logistics container wearing a wood slat skin, parked where utility crews sometimes stage equipment, and where a prefab shed wouldn't start chatter on patrol nets. The registration matched a Kamaz delivery route. The manifest read prefabricated cabin parts. And the truck rolled through checkpoints like any contractor hauling fence posts and roofing sheets. It rode 800 miles inside the enemy's paperwork, then stopped on dead flat farmland 50 miles short of the explosives plant and waited for dusk. The box was built to pass every casual test. Thin polymer veneers broke up edges on thermal imagers, while military-grade insulation soaked the heat from batteries and human breath. A small radiator vented waste warmth in pulses that mimicked ambient swings from cooling soil after sunset. RF shielding trapped command chatter, and a spoofing module kept the container's position logs tidy, so any audit showed a compliant asset, not a launch cell. When freight wagons clanked past on schedule, a roof panel slid back without a clank, and the Nebo M rose into the noise. Steel wheels, diesel exhaust, brake squeal, and a wall of hot air from the train blurred the mothership's signature. The timing wasn't luck. It was the difference between a tracked object and a ghost riding the wake of heavy industry. On the plant's side of the map, the defense stack layered reach and reaction. Nebo M scanned wide and high for low cross-section bodies. Tor M2 fenced the perimeter with a tight engagement bubble tuned for low flyers. Kasuka 4 smeared the air with jamming that sanded navigation links down to static. That kind of network doesn't need to see you clearly if it forces you to fly predictably. The only path through is to punch between their beats, not their sensors. The Nebo M carried 2 TFL-1s slung for a low, slow push. It took the irrigation cuts first, sinking into the cool air rows where radar lobes skimmed past. Tree lines gave uneven returns and sheltered crosswinds the drones could ride. Their RF stayed quiet. They used onboard logic and a map burned into memory. Every acceleration was small, every climb masked by terrain. When a patrol UAZ rolled a dirt road, the mothership tucked into a hedgerow gap and let dust clouds and engine heat overwrite its trace. Inside the plant, the weak point wasn't a wall. It was the nitro-cellulose curing bay's lungs. Those bays need steady airflow to prevent hotspots, so they breathe through intake vents with predictable geometry. Tight ducts can also focus a blast. Trigger a shaped charge inside that throat, and the duct behaves like a barrel, driving pressure across the line rather than dumping it outside. Timing matters. A fraction of a second decides whether the shock vents or gets trapped. Ground teams reacted fast. Spetsnaz unspooled motorized tripwires across draws and service lanes, stringing a shredded funnel that punished anything skimming ground level. That forced a choice. Climb into a clean Tor arc or thread a seam. The first Tor shot took that bet. It locked, launched, and missed. The TFL-1's small profile and a last-second altitude drop pushed the intercept high. The proximity fuse didn't see enough mass. The mothership punched through the gap, and both drones slipped a blind seam along the plant's wall, angling for the intake 40 feet up. A second Q spun up. GPS died under Kasuka 4, and the whole approach looked finished, until the drones stopped presenting as machines and started looking like something the sky ignores. How does a drone stop being a drone on enemy radar without switching off the brain that keeps it alive? It changes what the sky thinks it is. The moment Kasuka 4 washed the air with noise, the TFL-1s lost GPS, then watched the control link thin to a thread. Any off-the-shelf autopilot would have held a course, drifted into the motorized tripwire, and ended as chopped carbon. The A-50 overhead added a look-down cue, building a clean handoff to Tor M2. Keep flying like a small aircraft and the chain closes. Detect, track, shoot, kill. They didn't. The switch hit. AI Phantom Protocol took control and stripped the drones down to a wildlife profile. Embedded LEDs fed a faint warmth through the skin, only a hair warmer than the air. Power modulation flattened heat spikes from motors, so the thermal read sat in the sparrow band. Then the flight model changed. Instead of smooth arcs and steady headings, the airframes twitched through 4-degree nudges each second, banking and correcting in a rhythm pulled from thousands of hours of bird motion. To an operator, the return was still a blip. To Doppler filters sorting clutter, it looked like life, not a threat. Ground radar puts time into what moves fast and straight. It discounts small bodies with irregular speed because those signals smear into the ground picture. Bird-like micromaneuvers make the velocity trace messy and low. The filters demote it. That buys seconds. The TFL-1 spent those seconds on vision. Optical flow took charge, measuring how the scene slipped across the lens frame by frame to hold altitude and speed. Terrain edges, ditch lines, fence runs, roof breaks became rails the neural nets could follow. No GPS, no clean link, yet the course stayed true. Treetop high, weaving through the shred zone without touching a strand. They shifted guidance again at the fence line. The goal wasn't the building, it was the mouth that fed the nitro-cellulose curing bay. The model on board knew the shapes. Intake grills with crossbars at set spacing, service ladders offset to clear airflow, duct lips with a slight overhang to shed rain. The camera walked the facade, matched it to a stored 3D frame, and locked contrast on the intake. The drone didn't need a waypoint. It had a target that didn't move and a geometry it understood. Spetsnaz moved to cut off the last approach lane. A second Tor Q warmed up, waiting for climb. That was the trap. Pop up and you give the missile a clean arc. Stay low and you risk wire and wall. The lead TFL-1 found a third option. The vents fan drew air in, creating a pressure gradient that a small airframe could ride like a handrail. The drone eased into the flow, nudged by its own micro-corrections, and skimmed the lip. It stuck an 8-pound shaped charge inside the throat and cut power. The delay was set to 0.8 of a second, enough time for the body to settle deeper before the cone drove its jet into the duct. The blast did not vent. It multiplied inside the run, turning the plant's own airway into a hammer. The lights failed in sequence, floor, mezzanine, then the stack glow. Output didn't taper, it stopped. Now the real question lands on the front line. What does a sudden 30% hole in explosives supply do to tempo in the Donbass? And who moves to fill that gap before the next freight run masks another ghost? Audacity met adaptive AI and turned a jammed approach into an inside-out detonation. The strike didn't just cut output, it rattled local command nets that trusted their radar picture and their tripwire web. The lesson is simple. When guidance shifts and signatures bend, high-end defenses start chasing ghosts instead of targets. If you want more breakdowns on how low-cost autonomy bends expensive systems, subscribe, hit the bell, and tell us which platform or countermeasure you want unpacked next. Modern warfare rewards those who change the signature, not only the weapon. Expect more missions that vanish from radar by acting like life, not metal.